morning, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the Foreign Correspondents Club of Japan. My name is Kalden. I'm a former president, and I'm moderating this event today. We have 5 distinguished speakers, and the topic, as you know, it's about protesting against China's human rights oppression. And according to the state notice I have here. And I would like to make clear first that we have extended invitation to the Chinese embassy to attend also a press conference to explain their points and their policies. And we are waiting for their answers. And we hope that we host here all sides of the story. And we are just a hub here for free speech in the press club, and we continue to be that way. That's why we have these gentlemen here to talk about their issues related to China. We have 5 speakers today, and I will tell the names according to the order they will start speaking. First, we start with Mr. Hidetoshi Ishii. He's Vice President of Free Indo-Pacific Alliance. And he will be followed by Mr. Kalden Obara, President of Tibetan Committee in Japan. He's second from the right side. And then followed by Mr. Kerimu Oda. He's President of Japan Uyghur Association. And then Mr. Chimed Jirgal, he's Vice President of Southern Mongolian Congress. He will speak also. And then fifth is William Lee, a Hong Kong pro-democracy activist and member of Stand with Hong Kong at Japan. And each speaker will give a short presentation. Some of them will speak in English and others will speak in Japanese. And Mr. Fujita will be sitting at the right side, will be interpreting into Japanese. And after that, we will have Q&A. And basically, we are about to start the session. Please turn off your telephone to the manner mode, and we need a quiet session. Without further ado, ladies and gentlemen, thank you again for coming, and we start the session. Thank you. Please start. Yeah.
Thank you for the introduction. Hello, I'm Hidetoshi Ishii from Japan. I'm the Vice President of FIPA, Free Indo-Pacific Alliance. I believe in significance of freedom and human dignity. I fight against totalitarianism and dictatorship, and I support those who are suffering from human rights oppression and invasion, especially those from Tibet, Uyghur, Southern Mongolia, Hong Kong, and Taiwan. The reason why I do such activities is because I believe Japan should be the fortress of freedom in Asia. Today marks exactly a year before the Beijing Olympics, which is planned next year. We are here to bring your attention and awareness to our position to the Olympics in China, where human rights oppression has been massively taking place. Firstly, I will read our joint statement. After that, leaders from each nation will give a speech about their situation. A joint statement condemning the holding of the 2022 Beijing Winter Olympics under the pressure of human rights. With 1 year to go before the start of the 2022 Beijing Winter Olympics, many people are looking forward to the day when the Festival for Peace and Sports will successfully be held, and athletes will fairly and squarely compete with each other for the honor of their home countries or communities. Regrettably, however, the oppression of human rights, which is far from the Olympic spirit, is going on in the People's Republic of China, where the Olympic is scheduled to be held in Beijing, the capital of the country. The Olympic Charter clearly states that the goal of the Olympic Games is to encourage the establishment of a peaceful society concerned with the preservation of human dignity and understand each other with a spirit of friendship, solidarity, and fair play without discrimination of any kind. At the moment, in the People's Republic of China, millions of Uyghurs are reportedly detained in de facto concentration camps in the name of re-education centers in the Xinjiang Uyghur Autonomous Region. In the Inner Mongolia Autonomous Region, the people are deprived of an opportunity to receive education in the Mongolian language at school. In an area where Tibetans live, as well, the destruction of Buddhist temples and religious oppression continue, as once done during the Cultural Revolution. Besides, in Hong Kong, democratic activists and members of the Legislative Council have unlawfully been arrested one after another. And the one country, two systems policy, which was supposed to be an international commitment, has already become a dead letter. No improvement has been made on the oppression of democratic activists and Falun Gong practitioners in China. We cannot help but regard the holding of the Winter Olympics in China, where these kinds of oppression of human rights continue, as a violation of the spirit of the Olympic Charter. In the past, the Berlin Olympic held in the capital of Germany under the Nazi regime strengthened the legitimacy of the Nazi and was used to hide its autocracy, oppression of human rights, and racial discrimination policy. Moreover, in 2001, the Chinese government made a promise that the holding of the Olympic Games would improve the human rights situation in the course of venue selection for the Summer Olympics and invited the 2008 Beijing Summer Olympics. But the government ignored the promise. On the pretext of maintaining public order, numerous people were oppressed, and the Olympics was used by the Chinese Communist Party to enhance its national prestige under the autocratic system. The world shouldn't forget these historical lessons. Previously, when the Moscow Olympics was held in the capital of the Soviet Union, which invaded Afghanistan, many liberal democratic countries boycotted the Olympics to express their protest against the invasion. Recalling this history, we call for the following 3 points on the Chinese government and the international community to save those who are oppressed by the autocratic regime, as well as to protect the spirit of the Olympic Charter. 1. The Chinese government, based on the spirit of the Olympic Charter, must improve the human rights situation in Tibet, Uyghur, Southern Mongolia, Inner Mongolia, and Hong Kong. Stop the oppression of the democratic activists and Falun Gong practitioners immediately. Abolish concentration camps, release political prisoners, and guarantee the freedom of speech, expression, faith, and association. Second, the Chinese government must accept the dispatch of an international investigation team for the confirmation of the improvement in the human rights situation in China as a prerequisite for the international community to work together to allow the athletes to join the 2022 Beijing Winter Olympics. 3. The Japanese government, each government across the world, the international community, and the Olympic Committee in each country must declare that they will boycott the 2022 Beijing Olympics unless the human rights situation improves for the realization of freedom, human rights, and self-determination of peoples in China, and protect the Olympic spirit. February 4th, 2021. That's all. Thank you.
Thank you. We move to the next speaker now.
Yes. Hello, everyone. Hold on. Hello, good morning, everyone. I'm a Kalden, Obara Kaldens, a Tibetan living in Japan. I live in Japan for 25 years, and I feel that there are very few reports about human rights violations in China here in Japan. Today, I would like to give Japan and the world an opportunity to talk about the abuses and repression that has been received for more than 60 years by 6 million Tibetans who have been deprived of their country by Chinese aggression, and to speak out against human rights violations together. In January 2021, a Tibetan monk died in mainland Tibet under Chinese rule. His name was Tenzin Nyima, and he was 19 years old. He endured 5 years of torture in prison and died 2 weeks after his release. In addition to this incident, as many as 157 Tibetans have died in Tibet since 2009 by burning themselves to death in response to human rights repressions. Many of them are young people like Tenzin Nyima. For the people of Japan and around the world, these abuses are not fires on other hand. Just as it invaded Tibet, China is in conflict with many of its borders and is looking to expand its land. Japan's Senkaku Islands are a similar issue. At the root of this is China expansionism, which expands its land without quitting human rights violations. In addition, China has been hiding human rights violations, but China's cover-up principles are not only human rights issues, but also the problem of novel coronavirus. The WHO investigation team's refusal to enter the country will be a show of that. So I would like all of you who have heard this to speak out against human rights violations, and not only the United States government, but also Japanese government to protest human rights violations. During the 2008 Beijing Olympic and Paralympic Games, demonstrations were held around the world to stop holding human rights abuses in China. In doing so, China promised to improve the situation of human rights violations, but ended with a word of mouth. In light of this situation, the IOC foolishly decided on the Winter Olympic, Paralympic in Beijing. We are forced to speak out again. I would like to everyone to speak out together that if China does not stop human rights violations in Tibet and the neighboring region, China should not be allowed to host this 2022 Winter Olympic in Beijing. Free Tibet, and long live His Holiness the Dalai Lama, and release Panchen Lama as soon as soon. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Mr. Uda now.
皆様こんにちは。私は日本ウイグル協会会長の宇田と申します。
Hello, everyone. My name is Kerimu Uda, President of the Japan Uyghur Association.
東トルクスタンで起きていることについて、ポンピオ米全国国務長官は前月、国際法の上の犯罪となるジェノサイドおよび人道に対する罪を犯していると認定したと発表しました。
Former U.S. Secretary of State Mike Pompeo announced last month that what's happening in East Turkestan is genocide and crime against humanity and the international law is being committed.
バイデン新政権のブリンケン国務長官もこの認定に同意しています。カナダや欧州各国にも同様の動きが出ています。
Secretary of State Blinken of the new Biden administration has also agreed to this recognition. Similar movements are taking place in Canada and European countries.
世界中のメディア専門家が報告している通り、ウイグルでは男性を無差別に収容し、強制労働を強いる、独自文化の放棄と中国共産党への崇拝を強制し、公務員を 加える女性に不妊手術を強制し、子供を親から強制的に引き離す。
As reported by world media experts, think tanks around the world, in Uyghur, men are indiscriminately detained and forced labor, and people are forced to abandon their own culture and worship the Chinese Communist Party by torture. And women are forced fertility surgery, and parents are taking their children away.
ウイグルの著名な知識人や経済人が一斉に姿を消す悪夢のような事態が起きています。
Prominent intellectuals and business people who are the driving force behind the existence of Uyghur's unique culture suddenly disappeared all at once. Such a nightmare is really occurring.
シンクロ労働文化の重要な一文であるウイグルの独自文化や民族的なアイデンティティを絶滅させ、ウイグル人社会を根底から破壊する意図を持った非人道的かつ組織的な攻撃が進行中です。
Inhumane and systematic attack is in progress, and its intention is to extinguish Uyghurs' unique culture and ethnic identity, which has been passed down for thousands of years and is an important part of the Silk Road culture. Uyghur society is being fundamentally destroyed.
日本を含め世界各国政府は21世紀には民族大量虐殺が許さないと明確なメッセージを発して、この悪夢を終わりするために一刻も早く具体的な行動を起こすべきです。ありがとうございます。
Governments around the world, including Japan, should make it clear that genocide is not allowed in the 21st century. We should together take concrete action immediately to end this nightmare. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Now we go for Mr. Chimed Jirgal.
皆さんこんにちは。南モンゴルコルテイのチムテジャルグルと申します。よろしくお願いします。
Hello everyone, I'm Chimed Jirgal from Kurultai, Southern Mongolia. I'm honored to be here.
2020年9月1日からいわゆるバイリンガル教育が始まり、南モンゴル全域の小中学校で実施されました。
So-called bilingual education began on September 1st, 2020 in elementary and junior high schools all across southern Mongolia.
この新しい教育制度により、学校教育用語がすべて中国語となり、モンゴル人に唯一残されている母語によって教育を受ける権利が完全に奪われてしまいました。これはあからさまなモンゴル人に対する文化的ジェノサイドです。
Due to this new education system, all education is done in Chinese, and the only remaining right of native Mongolian, the right of education in our own native language, has been deprived. This is an outright culture genocide for Mongolians.
南モンゴルでは知識人、教師、保護者、そして牧畜民、農民などほぼすべてのモンゴル人が抗議の声を上げ、9月半ばに抗議運動に参加した学生数は30万に達しました。しかし中国政府に弾圧され、現在1万人以上のモンゴル人が逮捕されています。
In southern Mongolia, intellectuals, teachers, parents, herders, farmers, etc., almost all Mongolians voiced protests. And by mid-September, 300,000 students participated in the protests. The protest, however, has been cracked down by the Chinese government, and more than 10,000 Mongolians are currently arrested.
中国共産党政府による民族浄化政策は今に始まったことではありません。1960年代の文化大革命の時、中国はモンゴル人34万人を逮捕して拷問を行い、27,900人を殺害したのです。
The Chinese Communist Party's ethnic cleansing policy is nothing new. During the Cultural Revolution of the 1960s, China arrested and tortured 340,000 Mongolians, killing 27,900.
中国政府は私たち南モンゴルのみならず、同様な言語弾圧はチベット、ウイグルなど各民族にも行っています。現在やっているのはその民族浄化政策の最終形と言うべきものです。
The Chinese government's language suppression is not limited to southern Mongolia. It's down to other ethnic groups in Tibet, Uyghur, and so on. What the Chinese Communist Party is doing now is the final phase of the ethnic cleansing policy.
民族の最もな基本的な要素としての言語を奪うことは中国の憲法および教育法、自治法にも違反しています。また国際人権規約や民族自決権の理念にも反する犯罪的行為です。
Language is the most basic element for any ethnic group. Depriving the language is violation of China's constitution, education law, and also autonomous region law. It is also a criminal act that violates the International Bill of Human Rights and the idea of self-determination.
もう一度申し上げます。現在中国政府が南モンゴルで行っていることは文化的ジェノサイドです。
I'd like to repeat it. What the Chinese government is currently doing in southern Mongolia is cultural genocide.
ありがとうございました。
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Now we go to Mr. William Lee, please.
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is William Lee, a Hong Konger currently living in Japan, and also a member of Stand With Hong Kong in Japan, which is a team supporting the Hong Kong pro-democracy activities in Tokyo. Hong Kong is under the serious repression of human rights, repression after the establishment of the national security law, which is clearly violated the Sino-British Joint Declaration. Last year, pro-democracy iconic activists and media-related persons like Zhou Xiaobong, Agnes Chow, Jimmy Lai has been arrested due to the violation of the national security law. The only thing they did is voicing out what Hong Kong people really wanted, which is against the Hong Kong and Chinese government, implied the universal suffrage in Hong Kong. Besides, 12 Hong Kongers, including pro-democracy activist Mr. Andy Lee, detained by mainland China and sentenced to the imprisonment, and no procedural justice could be found from the judgment. They even could not choose their own lawyer and contact the parents or relatives during the adjustment. In this year, the 6th January, at least 53 Hong Kong citizens has been arrested due to the organizing or joining the independent primaries, which target for the best chance to have control of the Legislative Council, which for the election, which originally happened on the last year, September. Besides, there were so many human rights violating action happened in Hong Kong, which I cannot list out here. The police brutality, taking PCR tests without any consensus, blocking the anti-government information, and so on. All these actions have clearly violated the Universal Declaration of the Human Rights. Democracy-loving nations need to be accountable to condemn the Chinese government. We request the pro-democracy countries and the related government to recommend the government of China as follows. First, withdraw the national security law of Hong Kong and stop any other inhuman treatments. 2, release the remaining 10 Hong Kong people imprisoned in China back to Hong Kong immediately. Third, universal suffrage should be implemented in Hong Kong without any unreasonable restrictions. Sanctions needed to be conducted to the Chinese government if they do not directly respond, and stop their inhuman acts immediately. On the other hand, free Hong Kong Democrats, which supported by the ex-member of the Legislative Council, Mr. Bagel and others, just launched a co-sign campaign targeted to the representatives of parliament around the world against the arrestment to 53 pro-democracy activists. Please tell countries' parliament representatives to join and voice out. Also, 2022, the Winter Olympics will be held in Beijing. It should not allow China, a country which treating people unfairly, to hold the Winter Olympics, which is a symbol of the fairness. Human rights violations, just like coronavirus, originated in Wuhan, China. It will spread it all out if we could not stop it in the first beginning. This time, it is needed to be stopped in Hong Kong. Stand with Hong Kong, fight for freedom. Thank you very much.
Thank you. We start the questions and answer. Who would like to take the first question? Please proceed to the front mic at the right or the left, and stay. Yeah. Sorry. All right, go ahead. No, we don't. Are we translate?
As for Japanese, I'll translate into English, and English to Japanese as well. Yeah.
All right. first question. Peter.
My name is Langan. I'm from the South China Morning Post. The Associated Press put out a story yesterday saying that as many as 180 different groups are calling for this boycott, rights groups around the world. Could you say anything about what your strategy is to try and gain the attention of the different governments you've mentioned? Also, has there been any contact with the new Biden administration and what you're requesting from the US? And lastly, a question to Mr. Lee, particularly as well. What do you want the Biden administration to do regarding the situation in Hong Kong? Thank you.
サウスチャイナモーニングポストのピーターです。ランゲンです。AP 電ではですね、昨日180の異なったいろいろな世界中のグループがボイコットをしております。そこでお伺いしたいのはですね、どのような戦略を皆さんが取っていこうとしているのか、どのような戦略によって各国の注目を集めようとしていらっしゃるのか、例えばバイデン政権、アメリカのバイデン政権にはですね、どのような形でコンタクトを取りたいと思っているか、どのようなことをアメリカに対して要求したいと思っているか、特にリー氏に関してはですね、そのあたりのバイデン政権への要求、どんな要求を持っているかとお伺いしたいと思います。
じゃあリーさんから指名だと。
Okay. And firstly, I would like to answer the questions about the our attitudes towards the Biden government, which just as the Trump government also, we would like to have a more condemn and more the sanction about the Chinese government, which on the economic and also the cultural, especially for the opening about the Winter Olympics, and which we would like to American also, of course, and other countries, including Japan, to make sure they could have recognition about the Chinese government, what they have doing, which is very inhuman. And we also have, just as I have said, we have a co-sign campaign which just started by the ex-member of the Legislative Council, Mr. Bagelan, and we would like to take it as a chance to let all the world to know about the Hong Kong situation with that against the free Hong Kong pro-democracy activists, which is arrested on this month, 6th of January. And about the other countries, we would like to take a chance also to make connection with other countries of Hong Kong people, which is just having their efforts, putting their efforts about their own country's parliament. We would like to have more contact about the overseas Hong Kong people. Thank you very much.
まずバイデン政権に対して、そして、
いや、いいですか。他ありますか、皆さんから。今の。じゃあ私から、今のご質問に私から少しお答えをします。
Please translate to Japanese this one. The answer.
To Japanese? Okay. 私リーですけれども、バイデン政権、そして中共政府に対していろいろ要求したいと思います。特に中共政府に対してはですね、ルール申し上げたように、倫理の面、経済の面、そしてオリンピックに対して、先ほど述べたような要求を持っています。また日本政府に対してはですね、もっと認識を深めてほしいというふうに思っております。先ほども述べましたように、中国は非常にですね、非人道的な政策を取っております。そして香港に関してはですね、この記者会見も そうした機会にしたいと思ってますけれども、特にその5月3日のですね、香港で抗議デモが行われたときに逮捕された人々、こういう人たちを解放したいというふうに思っています。また他国のですね、海外にいるそうした民族の方々にも呼びかけてですね、こうした中国の非人道的な政策に対しては抗議行動を取っていきたいというふうに思っています。
では、私から今のお答えします。まず、質問の中で180以上の世界の人権団体がボイコットの署名をしたとありますが、私の所属しているフリードパシフィックアライアンスも署名してますし、ウイグルの今いるケリムさんの世界ウイグル会議も署名してます。ここにいるメンバーの関係は、すべて署名していますので、世界の動きと今日の私たちの記者会見は別なものではなくて、一貫した一つのネットワークの中でやっているということはまず申し上げます。
First, I'd like to tell you that in your question, 180 countries signed this movement, and of course, our organizations, including Free Indo-Pacific Alliance, and also Japan Uyghur Association and so on, we all acted in accordance with the international movement. So we're in a huge network of the world and acting together with the rest of the organization.
ですので、この北京オリンピックボイコットの運動に関しては、世界と、そして日本の国内の運動は連携をしていくということです。で、具体的にちょっと申し上げますが、バイデン政権が民主主義国サミットを開くということを表明しています、大統領選挙の時に。私はぜひ実現をしてもらいたいと思います。そしてその中で、中国の人権問題、そしてこの北京オリンピックがふさわしいかどうかも議論してもらいたいと考えています。
With regard to, first of all, as I said, our activity, our protest is acting in accordance with the movement in the world, and especially to new Biden administration, because President Biden said that he will hold the Democratic Nations Summit, and we're really looking forward to realizing that summit. And especially in the summit, we want them to participants to discuss the validity of having Beijing Winter Olympics.
そしてもう一つ、自民党の外交部会に人権外交プロジェクトチームというのが今週発足するというふうに報じられています。その中でもぜひ議論してもらいたいというふうに考えています。
And in Japan, Japanese ruling Liberal Democratic Party's diplomacy department will have human rights and also human rights diplomacy project team will be established. So we want the team to be also get into this issue.
以上です。
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
All right. I have a question online I received from France News Agency, Agence France Presse, from Ms. Katie Forster. She asked, regarding the Beijing 2020 Olympics, are you calling for Japan as a host of Beijing 2022 Olympics? Are you calling for Japan as a host of 2020 Olympics to take the lead in a boycott of the 2022 Winter Games over the human rights concerns? Fujita-san, to Japan.
Could you?
Okay. Are you regarding the Beijing 2022 Olympics? Are you calling for Japan as a host of 2020 Olympics to take the lead in a boycott of the 2022 Winter Games over human rights concerns?
この人権の問題で、その2022年の冬季北京オリンピックを、ボイコットしようとしているんで、その抗議のためにですね、この2020の東京の夏オリンピックも、抗議のためにボイコットするというようなことは考えていらっしゃいますか？
我々がボイコットするということですか？
Are you thinking of we boycotting 2020 Olympic Games?
Are you calling for Japan
そう
to
いう要
take the
求をする
lead?
かどうかと。
Yes, not Japanese Olympics like.
まあ
Bit
ないと思うけど。
Winter Olympics. Yeah.
I don't think we do. Call for the boycotts of the 2020 Tokyo.
2022. Like, are you calling for Japan to lead the move to boycott the Winter Olympics in China? That's the
で
question.
日本がその、2022年の冬季北京オリンピックのボイコットの主導的な役割を果たしてもらいたいというふうに思ってますか。
思っていますが、まあ、同時にまあ日本だけのできることではないので、世界インターナショナル世界に向けて訴える、特にまあバイデン政権にはリードしてもらいたいと。
I think so, but it's not just the thing that only Japan can do. So we want the rest of the world to act together, and also we want the new Biden American administration to join us.
もちろん私たちは日本に住んでますので、日本政府には強く働きかけをしていきます。
And we live in Japan, so we'd like to talk to Japanese government strongly.
Thank you. Okay. Next question. All right. Let me ask myself two short, really questions to each of you. Can you go back at any time to your region now without any worry? And secondly, are you calling for independence from China or just to change some policies in China?
2つのですね、簡単な質問ですけど、まず1つ目は皆さんその出身の地に帰ることができるのかどうか、あるいは帰りたいと思っているのか、それともう一つ2番目はですね、皆さんはその独立を主張しているのか、それとも単なるその状況の変化を求めているのか、以上の2つの質問です。
では皆さん、カルデンさんからいい。
じゃあまず私から申し上げたいと思います。まずは帰らないです。これとしては2つの例はあります。昨年ぐらいで日本で大学院を卒業して日本の会社で働いて、あと仕事のために1回中国に戻ったの女性が逮捕され収容所で収容されておりました。
I'm not thinking of going back to my own region because there are two cases of, and very sad cases. Did you graduate from Japanese? Are you talking about your case?
いや、知らないの。
そういう人がいた。
はい。
So there's a case of a person who lived in Japan and graduated from Japanese graduate school and started working in Japanese society, and then this person went back to his or her own region, but he or she couldn't come back.
はい、もう一つは東京大学学院出身の同じ女性一人が2019年帰国しましたが、昨年年末ぐらいに収容所の中で死亡したという連絡がありましたんで、それでウイグル人に対しては帰国は危険なことです。
So there's one more case, and she's a graduate of Tokyo University, and she went back to her own region back in 2019. But the end of last year, she had a problem, and she couldn't come back to Japan.
She couldn't leave China, he means.
She was not able to leave China. So the Uyghurs have such problem.
2つ目の質問ですが、今ウイグルで起きたのはジェノサイドなので、ウイグル人に対しては私は個人的にもそうけど中国共産党から独立しないとこれは止めることができないだと思います。
I think what's going on in Uyghur is genocide. So when it comes to Uyghur people, unless we become independent from Chinese Communist government, we can't really attain peace of the Uyghur people.
Thank you. How about the others, please, very briefly?
先ほど質問に対してちょっと答えさせていただきたいと思います。チベット人も基本的は本当にもう今例えば僕なんかやっぱりもう日本国籍なんですが、だけどチベットに行くのもとても危険なことなんです。本当にそれは間違いないんです。というのは実際日本国籍持ってチベット人が行った人も捕まってやっぱりねもう空港から返されたとかそういう人もいっぱいいて、で私もやっぱりそこはやっぱり行ったらとても危ないんじゃないかなというのは間違いないんです。そういう事例も今たくさんいますので。
I'd like to talk about the situation of Tibetan people. In my case, I have a Japanese nationality, but even so, it is very dangerous to go back to Tibet. And there's a case of a Japanese national former Tibetan who were, detained, arrested in the airport, and come back to Japan. So it's very dangerous.
それとあとは独立とね、単なるのなんかアピールをしてるかっていうの話だとやっぱり基本的にはやっぱりチベット人は独立の国でございます。やっぱり独立っていうのは間違いないんですが、ただ我々政府としてやっぱり自治区っていう今を我々をそれに対して戦ってます。だけどやっぱりね中国の共産党の支配下によってやっぱりなかなかそうしない。やっぱりチベット人が求めてることをやっぱりなかなかなんていうんですか自由に生活するためのとかチベットでは本当にできないです。日本だったらやっぱり自由にねどこでも行けるけどやっぱり全然そういうのなくて、だからもう本当にチベット人はだったらやっぱりね独立をやっぱり目指さなきゃならないんじゃないかっていう意見ももちろんあります。以上です。ごめんなさい。藤井さん。
Well, in my understanding, Tibet is an independent state. But we are acting as a Tibet autonomous
yes.
region. But if we try to claim independence under Chinese Communist government, it is very dangerous. And Tibetan people, unlike Japanese people, we can live a very free life. We can't enjoy free life in Tibet. So to have such a free life, to enjoy such a free life in Tibet, we may have to be independent from Chinese Communist government.
どうぞ。
はい。南モンゴル人はどうしても自分のふるさとへ帰りたい人が多いです。で、現実を見ればですね、今は自分のモンゴル語を言うだけで、あるいはモンゴル語を自分の言葉を守るだけでは逮捕されたり、あるいは拷問されたり、こういうレースが特に多い。今年昨年の9月から始まったバイリンガル教育、こういうことに反対した、あるいは抗議を出した人が、今は私の知っている人でも10人ぐらいが今、投獄されて、今は行方不明になっております。だからそれはとても危険な状態になって、今、海外にいる人たちが、自分のふるさとのお父さん、お母さんとも連絡できない状態になっております。
As for we Mongolians, would like to really go back to our own region, our own country, homeland. But as I said, currently the bilingual education is taking place, and even it's dangerous to speak our own language in southern Mongol. And if we protest against bilingual education, we are at risk of being arrested and detained, and there are such cases. So currently, Mongolian people living overseas, outside Mongolia, are having very hard time contacting their own parents as well.
はい、直接言えばですね、今、自分のふるさと、南モンゴルでは、モンゴル語を言うのが罪になっております。だからみんな怖がって帰りたいけど帰れない状態になっております。
In southern Mongolia, my own homeland, using Mongolian language is the crime. So it's very difficult for us to go back to our own homeland, southern Mongolia.
はい、すみません、独立かどうかについては、今はですね、もともとは独立国家であったというのが、南モンゴルも一緒です。モンゴルは一つのモンゴルです。北と南は関係なく同じモンゴル国です。ただ今はモンゴル国は一つあって、南モンゴルは中国政府、中国に侵略されたから分かれていることで、今は私たちはどうしても自分の国を建てる、こういう決心しております。
As for southern Mongolia, it is prohibited to use Mongolian language, and we regard our own homeland is independent state. And in fact, the reality is, Chinese Communist government invaded our homeland and made it their part of their country. But southern Mongol is, in our understanding, is an independent state. So to actually realize our own ideal, again, we have to be independent from Chinese Communist government.
Yeah, Uncle.
Okay, thank you for the question. Thank you for the question. And as I would like to take me as an example, and I am using my real name to having the activity or the pro-democracy activity in Tokyo, which means that the Chinese government or even the Hong Kong government have my personal data. And also, I have claimed that I have been arrested on the 2019 on the November, which I have been back to Hong Kong and joining a demonstration on there, and then I just being arrested, and all my information, including my address, my phone number, and even my pass phone, has been all taken by Hong Kong police. So if they would like to, I would like to go back to Hong Kong and just even for arrest, and they would have the chance or they would have the authority to get me out and to arrest me in the Hong Kong when I arrived. And of course, there are still so many people just like me, and over around 10,000 or more has been arrested, and they just go back to other countries, and for the reason is to just escape from the arrestment of the unfair treatments from the Hong Kong government. And I would like to inform you that if you could choose to not speak out for Hong Kong, and you could go back. And under the national security law, no one in Hong Kong now could clearly state out we are pro-democracy activists right now. And no demonstrations are happening in Hong Kong right now. And if we just not voicing out, we could still live in Japan, but live in Hong Kong. But I don't think it would be a good place to do so. And also for the independence, and I think as a team of pro-democracy activity, and we are not now, it is not the moment to talk about the independence, which means that we are under repression now. And the first thing we would like to do is to achieve the withdrawal of the national security law. And afterwards, and I think when Hong Kong could have the universal suffrage, and then we could choose what we want, and we could choose what the election of the representative we want, and so that on that moment we could, through the election, to choose the Hong Kong, the future of the Hong Kong. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Fujita-san. Sorry, it's long, but Summary.
はい、わかりました。私の場合はですね、2019年にデモをして、そして逮捕されたということになりまして、私の個人的なデータとか全部共産党の方、政府の方で把握されていますし、パスポートなども全部香港検察に取られてしまったりしました。で実際ですね、現状はそのリバティというようなですね、自由というようなことを香港の人たちが言うことが非常に難しくなっていると。私だけではなくて、多くのというか、ほとんど香港の人々がですね、そういう状況にあります。で今、デモとかですね、その抗議の声を上げるということが非常に難しくなっておりまして、というのは逮捕されてしまうからですね。で国家保護法ですか、それができましたから、非常に厳しく取り締まりがなっていまして、そういった抗議の声をですね、香港の中ではほとんど上げられないというのが現状です。
じゃあ私からいいですか。
Yeah, go ahead.
今お聞きの通りですね、皆さんのこの訴え、心の訴えとしては、やっぱり独立という思いを非常に強く持っている人たちが多いです。で、その意味では、今日の共同声明は、本当に最低限の訴えと、もうこれ、人権の問題、今日の共同声明の中には、独立という言葉は一言も入っていません。まさに本当に言いたいことは、思いはいっぱいある中での、これだけは守ってほしいという最低限の訴えを今日の共同声明で発表しているということをご理解いただきたいと思います。
So what you just heard is a real voice from the heart, and we talk about the independence from Chinese government, but in the joint statement. Nothing like independence is mentioned. So I want you to understand that what is written in a joint statement is a minimum, hope that we have, and then this is not what we really maximum term want for our ideal.
もう一つすいません。先ほどちょっと日本政府に、オリンピックのボイコットを訴えるかという質問があったので、それについて一つ言い忘れましたので、茂木外務大臣と、確か王毅外務大臣だと思いますが、中国は東京オリンピックに協力するけども、日本は北京オリンピックに協力するという話し合いをしたと記憶しています。で、そこまでいいですか。
Regarding the boycotting Olympic Games and the Japanese government's attitude, we had bilateral summit meeting of the Foreign Minister Motegi and also Chinese Foreign Minister Oki. And they said that
お互いに協力すると。
they will communicate each other. They will cooperate each other.
東京オリンピックを批判される、攻撃されることを恐れて、北京オリンピックを批判することができないということは絶対にあってはならないと。
Now is that they're afraid of being criticized by saying that we boycott 2022 Beijing Olympic Games. That's the situation of the Japanese government at the moment.
Thank you. I just want to make a very short comment on the answer about Southern Mongolia. He said it's illegal to speak the Mongolian language, and it's very dangerous, right? I watched TV program. In my office, I could watch many channels, including Chinese channels in Arabic, and I saw one feature story about a newscast. He was visiting in our Mongolian places, and he showed actually he was speaking Mongolian language to the people, and they answered, and it was normal. And he went to some school, and they showed that, and teaching Mongolian language, and also I think there was a museum there. So the situation looks really good and nice there. It's not as exactly as you said, it's oppression and not allowed to speak the language. So that contradicts with your statements according to what I saw in the Chinese TV. It's just my comment. Thank you. Next question, please. Peter? Yeah.
Thank you. This question is to Mr. Uda specifically. China's argument about what has happened in Xinjiang in particular is that it faced what it's called a terrorist insurgency. And its actions were in order to push back, fight back against that insurgency. And in fact, there were attacks elsewhere around China. So how would you respond to that argument that Beijing has made? And a second question to Mr. Ishii, please. Have you had direct contact with the IOC? And if so, can you tell us what they said? Thank you.
まずチャンネルモーニングポストのピーターですけれども、まず宇田さんへの質問ですが、新疆ウイグル自治区で中国はですね、テロが起こっていると、それを制圧するためにそういうことをやってるんだというんですけども、それに対してどのような見解をお持ちですかと。それから石井さんへはですね、IOC とコンタクトを取っていますかと。コンタクトを取っているんであれば、どのようなことをしているか、言っているかということをお伺いしたいと思います。
はい、まずは一つ目の質問に答えたいと思います。このような話は中国政府がずっと訴えてきましたが、実際はこちらでウイグルで起きた政府の不満に対して起きた事項のすべてがテロリストと定義しております。
That's what the Chinese government says, and what's going on is that we are under suppression, and it is people's movement against such a suppressive communist policy. But whatever we do, they regard that kind of action as terrorist movement. That's the stance of the Chinese Communist government.
はい、ウイグルでは起きたことについて自由に行動することができないので、実際に何が起きたかは我々に外側に対しても義務することが多いです。報道することができないので、実際に何が起きたか。
So we are having a very difficult time telling outside Uyghur region what's going on. So we cannot really tell actual suppression of the Chinese Communist government.
最後に中国政府がテロリストグループと訴えたイスラムグループがありましたので、東トルキスタンイスラムパーティーという団体かな、最近アメリカ政府によってこれがテロリストリストから除外されておりましたので、これも実際にウイグルで起きたことでテロリストはないこともあると思います。
Well, the Chinese government designated certain Uyghur group as a terrorist group, but recently, United States government excluded that particular group from the list of the terrorists. And what's the name of the group? Uyghur East Turkestan.
East Turkestan Islam Party. Islam Party.
Islam Party. Islam Party. I see.
I think you're coming out. Can you please translate?
Yeah, yeah, okay.
Yes, I did. I finished. And then the name of the organization dropped around there. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
I think before that, I think you're coming on Mongolia. was not understood by Mr. Jirgal. I think he should be.
Yeah, okay.
And ask him to comment.
All right. Thank you.
石井さんには。
では今の質問に答えます。まずは、私がIOC にコンタクトを個人的にしているということは今まではないです。
I haven't contacted personally to IOC so far.
で先ほどピーターさんの質問、最初の質問ありましたけど、今日180の世界の人権団体が共同声明を出してますけど、そういった形で IOC には私もそれに署名してますので、そういった形で国際的なネットワークで IOC に訴えてます。
But as Peter said, that 180 organizations announced the sort of joint statement, and we joined that statement.
180 human rights organization.
By the Associated Press yesterday. I'm not reporting it. The Associated Press reported it.
Associated Press said 180, organizations signed the joint statement.
でそういう形で間接的
But
で
their group also
でそれは去年の秋、去年ですね、9月だったかな、ちょっと10月だったかな
September last year,
9月ですね、去年の9月の20日にも
September 20
IOC に共同声明を出しています。
we presented a joint statement to IOC.
でそういう形で国際的な連携
So
で IOC に
we're
働きかけ
acting
ている。
internationally in that way.
で日本において私たちは今日共同声明をこのような形で出しましたので、この共同声明は日本政府、外務省、それから JOC にはこの共同声明をもってこれから働きかけをしていきます。
So as we had this press conference, we will present our joint statement to Japanese government, Japanese Foreign Ministry, and JOC as well.
Thank you. Just from about in southern Mongolia, please comment on my comment, Mr. Jirgal. Mr. Jirgal.
Yes, Kalden person commented that in southern Mongolia.
I spoke in English, maybe in Nihongo.
日本語でね、そう
日本語に
はい。南モンゴルではですね、先ほどバイリンガル教育で言葉を使うことが許されてないという話でしたけども、その中国のですね放送局がテレビでですね放送した内容がありまして、それではですねモンゴルの取材に行ってですね、モンゴルの人にモンゴル語で質問して、モンゴル語で答えて、全くそのようなですねことがないような、そういう報道がされていました。非常にそこにね矛盾があるわけですね。でも what he said is what you said the truth, right?
それについてどう思いますか。今そう
外国の記者とか、あるいは国際的のこういうことには見せるためには、今でも南モンゴルでは民族の衣装を着て、あるいは民族の踊りとか民族の歌もすごく歌わせております。
So for foreign visitors to southern Mongolia, Chinese Communist government let the Mongolian people sing Mongolian songs and dance Mongolian, dance, and appeal that the Mongolian people are having very good time in Mongolian language. The Chinese government respect the Mongolian, culture and so on.
もう一つは学校でも今はモンゴル語教育をね禁止されていますけれども、まだ外部報道するためにはモンゴル人生徒にはモンゴル衣装を聞かせてモンゴル語で教えているものを録画して宣伝して使っております。
In Mongolia, the education in Mongolian language is prohibited, but for the overseas press or media or for propaganda, they use Mongolian language for their propaganda.
もう一つは中国政府からのみならず、今ね中国社会ですね、南モンゴルはすでに人口比率は8と2の比率になっておりますので、モンゴル人子どもたちが外へ行ってモンゴル語を言うのも怖い、中国人子どもたちに殴られている例も出ています。
モンゴル人の方が2割ですね。
So the rate of Chinese people, Mongolians, is 8 to 2. 2 is Mongolian. So Mongolian children are very scared of speaking in their own language because they are also bullied by the Chinese people.
じゃあ総的に言えば、今の南モンゴルの状況は、中国共産党政府制限によって弾圧されることと、中国南モンゴルに侵入した中国人、漢人によっても弾圧を受けている状態です。
So actually, the suppression is not only done by the communist government, but also Han Chinese people who went into Mongolian region.
以上です。
All right. Thank you. I think this wraps up our event today. We are 8 minutes after the schedule, but very interesting. Thank you all for coming, and thank you for those who following us online. And if you have any question later, you can contact the speakers. And we will have this press conference on our FCCJ YouTube channel. You can also watch it again. It will be uploaded this evening, I guess. All right, thank you again, everybody, and have a nice evening. Thanks. Bye.